I mean, both the Silencer and the Mirana will just have kind of a free path to cancel that. Anytime you go in for the Fiend script, it can get canceled, maybe not immediately, but just about every time. So, I don't know. Furia Jovem, not entirely sure what the plan is there. That feels like basically a bait play, but I'm not sure which side is the one laying the trap at this point. On the surface, seems kind of obvious that Furia Jovem have walked into this, but I don't think they take the Bane in this position with their fourth overall pick into Silencer and Mirana unless they have some sort of idea of what they're going to do with it. But very bizarre. And now Hokori coming in with the Medusa on the other side, they're just going to get RDO, that sort of tried and true carry option.
Yeah, and for the second time here, we're seeing a lineup that has a little bit more damage inherently than the last time we saw this in just one game ago. But this Medusa is going to feel very safe versus the Doom, one of the best carries versus Doom, just because you always have Mana Shield on. If you get Doom with Mana Shield off, that's on you. But the Mana Shield will always keep her feeling very, very safe. In addition to that, same with the Batrider. If you can get the Stone Gaze off before these ultimates land, then you are completely fine on the Medusa. There's not much you can do about it. And now you need to find a carry that's actually going to be able to punish you or keep pace. So anti-mage ban, perfect from Hokori. But what do Furia Jovem now pick up? Because Sark is banned out. They banned out the Sark for themselves. You can't really go for the Gyrocopter or the Luna. They might try it, but this is just the same patch type stuff where you are picking unideal heroes to match up into what is still one of the strongest heroes. So I'm a little bit worried for Furia Jovem, as well as them picking up this Bane in what is already not a good Bane game. So they're picking it pretty much solely for this lane. So this has got to be one hell of a lane from Duster. Otherwise, this is going to be another hero that simply can't play the game versus Hokori's incredible team fight.
Yeah, we'll see if there's some sort of miraculous big brain play that they were sort of pulling out here with that final selection. Okay. Going in for the Ursa, that's, well, maybe not a bad choice. A hero that maybe doesn't have to care quite as much about some of the obstacles that Hokori will put in his path. So, I don't know. You've got damage, relatively mobile. You're going to be durable to go along with the Doom. So, I think Furia Jova may be doing the best with the position that they've been sort of presented with, but that is kind of relative. Hokori just feel like they've got something that's a little more straightforward and maybe a little bit safer for them too.
Yeah, and the Ursa, of course, we saw this many, many times in this meta, even though the meta did shift very slightly. But Ursa versus Medusa, if you can keep the team fight going long enough, you will keep those stacks on her and you will actually start beating into her, especially during those Doom durations. But that just changes the objective of these team fights now, where Hokori are going to be more or less on the run for the entire time. But once you run out of those abilities, then Hokori can kind of just set up on your buildings and push right into you, where now you need to play up your strength of the Shadow Demon. It's a really big toss up, I think, right now, because we are going to need some really good early game performances. Yet again, we've got the team that needs good early on and then needs to maintain the speed into the mid game. Whereas the other team, yeah, they're just going to pick. This is a classic Gardic hero as well, the Gardic Treant Protector. They keep doing this. They pick Medusa Treant whenever they get the opportunity to. So we're going to play another waiting game here, it looks like, from Hokori, but a waiting game that I don't know if they're going to necessarily lose. And this is actually going to be a mid silencer. So
Yeah.
this is another real bad Batrider lane. Oh, goodness.
Well, we were hoping that this would maybe be the game where the Batrider finally gets a bit of an easier time. He could still come out ahead. It's just it's not going to be easy for him. So, Core Silencer coming into play. Of course, the thing with the Core Silencer, it's not durable and it is not mobile. So if Furia Jovem can get in onto it, you are going to have a little bit of punishment there. It's just, it really comes down to, as you said, they need strong early game play and they need to be able to actually close that gap. If they can't actually close the distance to punish heroes like the Silencer, then this all just sort of falls apart for them.
Yeah, and you are right. If they can get on top of the silencer, he is more or less dead, especially if the really all three cores can be very successful with getting on top of the silencer and then making sure that they stick on him. The problem is very similar to the Medusa. If he gets out, you are in a whole hell lot of trouble. If RDO comes in with the Stone Gaze, you don't get the kill in the silencer, the fight resets, you are just dead, more or less, at that point. As well as Furia Jovem don't have a honest to God building hitter, which they now have to play into the Treant Protector. It's going to be really difficult for them to ever push into these buildings. These towers are just not going to die for a very long time, and it'll just give Hokori so much time. Really, Furia, they just have to play the snowball game. They have to win their lanes and have to keep the pressure on. We've seen before Ursa lineups where you're playing Ursa versus Medusa, and the enemy team calls GG while the tier 2s are still alive because they just can't win. They can't leave their base, but they need to have that kind of perfect early team play. Otherwise, we've got another Medusa that's going to waltz into that 30-minute mark and then just win straight up.
Yeah, it just, I don't know. Feels like a lot of these games are extensions of the same overall kind of strategy. And for the most part, it seems like the squad with the sort of Medusa, with the slower, more methodical approach, has been the one that's been able to pull it out. But again, those were different scenarios with different teams and different lineups. You can't necessarily rule Fúria Jovem out just sort of inherently. So we'll see what they can put together. Meanwhile, we do have a bit of a pause coming out that gives me a moment to pass along a bit of a note from production in terms of the identities of some of the players. Fúria Jovem still don't have all of their players officially tagged up, so we will walk you through that one. The Ursa going to be played by Mandy. The Bat Rider, aka You Still Garbage, I will not be saying that name. That is Suits, who will be on the Bat, and in that offlane position is Heiko, apparently. So they've got Heiko playing for them. Not 100% clear if this is a long-term stand-in situation or not, but he will be in the lineup and will be playing the Doom here. So just real brief sort of bringing you up to date on who's who, while those official tags still aren't quite up to date just yet. But well, buys us enough time to get through the pause. We are going to get this one underway. Fúria Jovem pushing out here early, but as we've seen really quite a few times, this push doesn't really have to turn into much of anything, just maybe a fight for the early vision, although see Analog actually just dropping the ward on his own side. So not looking for any funny business, not going to cross the river. He just cares about securing his own, which kind of makes sense as the silencer. We mentioned during the draft he's not mobile and he's not durable, so just protect that flanking route, make sure you don't get jumped in on during the lane, and gives him a little bit more peace of mind to work with. As another pause, this time we actually do have a DC'd player, unfortunate. So we're going to be waiting for Mandy to get himself back in here.
Yeah, and back in here he will be, of course, I think they're splitting up these servers, if I remember correctly. So one is going to be in South America, the other is going to be in Peru. Rather, one in Peru, one in Brazil. So that might be the team having slightly more issues here. No ping. Maybe that's some flame for no ping. Who knows? But yeah. No aggression.
Can confirm. This match is being played on the Peruvian server. Game 2 will be on the Brazilian one. So Fúria Jovem would be the team dealing with the sort of ping here in this first match. Hopefully it doesn't actually become a problem. You never want to have any sort of game be significantly influenced by lag or DCs of any kind. That's just not really fun for anybody. But it was a brief pause. Mandy gets back in. I think we're good to go here, as we do get this laning stage underway. Even split on the bounties, and well, we'll see really just how things go down here. Ursa and Bane down in the bottom lane for Fúria Jovem, and this is what you were talking about in the draft, ET, this sort of duo Mirana in the off lane alongside Vitali. They can sort of pick and choose their moments, but when they want to go in, they've got some lockdown, they've got some damage, and especially someone like Duster on the Bane, very low sort of HP pool. They've got to be so careful. If they get caught out really even once, it could hurt them pretty significantly. For now, though, Wid's just looking to snipe out that ranged creep.
Yeah, and that's where you see Vitali getting up that first point in Anchor Smash. He just wants to try and be a little bit obnoxious. And Duster, okay, he's going to take the couriers, but he's dead for these couriers.
Yeah, he is.
Okay.
Oh, hold up.
Nice dodge.
Duster, gonna make him work for it, and at this point, when I say work for it, they may not actually get it. Duster's popping the salve. He's gonna presumably get away with this. Maybe Widge can hit him up with another arrow in a few seconds, but by that point, I'm not sure Widge has the damage to then finish off the kill. And yeah, Widge is going to give it really his best shot, but after that, he just backs away. So Duster, he gets 2 courier snipes. He doesn't die, and he's pulling this creep wave all the way back onto his own side. So somehow, that's almost accidentally, I think, the best play he possibly could have made there.
Yeah, Denny probably taught him that one, I'll be honest. But they need to be careful, though, because you gave the levels over to the Tidehunter. It looks like First Blood actually got claimed in the top lane, which makes a little bit of sense. Very low armor hero playing versus both of them, but they're still diving with this double wave.
Oh, they want it. Mandy, not a great spot here. He's got a Fairy Fire if he gets into trouble, but it looks like Duster is the one really sort of stepping up right into the middle of that fight, trying to attract as much attention as possible, while Widge, very low on HP there. He's going to back himself away. Able to heal up with the salve, but while they don't get anything directly, this is so disruptive right now for this safe lane duo. You see Mandy, he's still keeping up with the last hit counts, which is really just kind of a testament to the way that he's played in this lane so far. That was a very sort of threatening position he was in underneath that tower. And, I mean, he comes away okay, but if Italian Witch can continue to apply pressure like that, not entirely sure if Mandy's always going to be able to pull that one off, as now Duster gets hit up. Widge misses with the arrow, but they'll still find the kill. So, okay, they still get it, but arrow would have made it a little bit easier. But at the end of the day, still a kill going their way, 2-0 on the board for Hokori.
Yeah, and it was just a testament to that early wave aggression. I almost think Duster didn't really make too good of a play there whenever he ended up double waving his Ursa, just because Ursa isn't very good at dealing with those creeps, but that also comes to Hokori making a really good play there. And
Vitali?
Oh,
He's sticking around. Okay, that's unfortunate. He didn't have the mana to go for the TP out, I suppose, so he should be taken down here. He's still got those stacks on him, so really, Mandy, there we go. Just had to find him for one last hit, and we'll be able to get that kill. So you gotta like Fúria Jovem taking advantage of that the second that they realize that the Mirana is out of lane. This is a Tidehunter by himself. I mean, he is normally tanky, but with 2 points up in the Fury swipes, Mandy hits him hard and hits him continuously, and they do find that kill. But over on the other side of the map, you see Heiko in a little bit of trouble. RDO is going to hit him up with the snake, and that bounce or no bounce is going to be enough for the kill, as RDO was able to strike again. It was his teammate who got the kill for First Blood, but this duo, Medusa and Shriya, they're just so unbelievably obnoxious in this lane.
In bottom two, Duster gets forced all the way back to the tower. Yeah, the top lane is incredibly obnoxious for the Doom. Even though you have a little bit more base armor now, you're still just getting hit by a Tree Protector non-stop here, as well as Gardic able to get the boots very, very early on, gets to play a little bit easier, gets a nice time, and really, there's been no aggression coming from the Shadow Demon. You can't really set up on the Medusa too easily. RDO has also gone for the non-greedy build, where you just immediately get these boots as fast as you can, has a Band of Elvenskin as well. It's just a really safe, stable lane for them, and one that you can't really do much about. He's trying to run down the Treant, but it just feels like this is so much time for the Medusa, and another free farm Medusa. We've already seen how that's worked out.
Meanwhile, King RD wrapping all the way onto mid. They're going to try for analog, and this is a little bit of what we were talking about. This silencer, I mean, once you're in, you're in. There is no getting out. There's no means of him escaping, at least not until he picks up further items, but that is the play that they needed, and talked about the fact that the Bat wasn't going to have a great time against a silencer, at least in the 1v1, but if they can make rotations like that, bring the supports in, and maybe turn the tides just that little bit, that's going to buy the Bat Rider a lot of time to catch up to analog in terms of that last hit count.
And it's a good swap up by Suits as well, immediately going for this 3-2 build instead, saying that I kind of have to lane here. It's going to be a little bit obnoxious, but I'll be okay. And actually,
is he just going to die to this?
Yep.
Analog just charges in, gets the kill. King RD, I mean, good disruption, but it's not really going to be enough. The living armor even coming out to heal Analog up, but once he's out from that disruption, and it was a nice play, but the response from Hokori is going to come right in, and now down in the bottom lane, speaking of responses, they're in on Mandy. And the Ursa's going to get taken down, and now Duster's in a bit of a weird spot here.
Oh.
Didn't actually get it. Vitali may be the more valuable kill, though, if he can finish it off, but Well, Vitali's got just too much damage block there. Even just the 1 point up in the Kraken Shell is going to help him out. He'll pop the wand as well as the salve. And now if you're Duster, just make sure you don't catch any sort of stray arrow here. We're just sort of patrolling around like he wants it, but the Brain Sap is going to push him back. That should be it.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. He had Widge there, but he wanted the more valuable kill and doesn't end up getting it. Oh, nice. Arrow lands on the cart as well, but that's why you pick this Mirana. Especially, some people would pick this Mirana into the Bane because you kind of get to win these trades, and if you ever get in too poor of a position, you 100% will get punished for it. And Widge, ooh, okay, we'll be
Not
fine.
quite.
But he got to pick up everything there. He got all the bounty runes before he came over, so not like any of this matters.
Duster, I mean, he's drifting a little bit right now, but he's going to be able to make his way back to the lane. And really, I don't know that the Ursa needs him directly in this lane anymore. So allowing him to maybe drift away, start rotating outwards, try and find something in terms of stacking camps, making a rotation, really anything. While Mandy will just be sort of left to farm up and grab solo experience. So very much interested to see where Duster goes. He's making a very long trip back to his base right now as he didn't have any TP scrolls, but TP mid, TP top, look to make some sort of play happen. Actually, maybe not top because no one from Hokori is really here to be jumped in on, as that Medusa has already shifted into farming the jungle, but good look to do something as we see that TP will take him mid. He's got the smoke. I don't know. Batrider wants the stack here, so Duster could just sit and wait, or he could get the Nightmare down onto the Mirana as Widge just sort of wanders in. Do they have the damage for this? Not really. Widge just leaps away. Duster is going to kind of give chase, but only far enough to make sure Widge is actually backing off.
Yeah, and fortunately the Batrider is still able to take out those Ancients, gets 2 of those neutrals as well, but Ardio has a crazy build on Medusa, and he is not going to get punished for it. That's
Whoa.
kind of absurd to me. This is so terrible, but it is going to allow him to farm fast and actually farm a lot of those stacks on the left side of the jungle that weren't actually able to be made in his triangle as of just yet, but I've never seen a Medusa actually have this skill build before, but it's gonna work. He is just completely given the lane over to Gardic, and Gardic is just going to do Tree and Protector things, make it so that this Doom can never really take this. He's trying to get as many denies as he can on this Doom to make this Tree and Protector a little bit sad, but I'll be honest, I don't think he cares, and RDO is just off to the races in his own jungle.
It's just... it is a level of greed that should always be punished. But as of right now, just not the case. No one's really getting in onto him. In fact, you see Mandy right now, he's kind of just trying to back away from this. He gets some nice damage onto Analog, but with Widge there, that's not a 1v2 he feels comfortable taking. So as long as they can keep that safe, they're just going to keep on pushing as Suits. That's ambitious. Thought he had Widge by himself. That was very much not the case. And he will be taken down. Vitali does have to pop the Ravage there, so technically speaking, you're trading out ults, but you end up losing a hero. Meanwhile, Analog was able to pick up some intelligence, but over on the other side of the map, Heiko's able to get a pick off onto Gardic, so he does have to use the Doom for it, and it is Doom onto Treant Protector, which, maybe not the highest value, but Doom needs kills. Doom needs money. He's currently the top net worth hero on his own side, but he's got to sort of keep that going as best as he can. So they get the kill. They're going to push out the tower a little bit. Living Armor makes that difficult once again. That's what the Treant is here for. But now if you're Gardic, I don't know. I mean, it took the Doom to bring you down before, and obviously he doesn't have it back up for quite some time. So really, you're just kind of free to sit back and chill in this lane.
Yeah, he's just going to keep on doing everything as he has been before. There really isn't that much good grab on him, and now that the Doom is unavailable, I really don't think they can get a nice dive going on him. It's unfortunate they didn't time the kill of the Tree and Protector along with the cart pushing in. Otherwise, this tower might have taken a little bit more damage, but at the same time, it's not like you can rotate this Batrider to end up killing the tower, but they are going to look for the Treant one more time here, and
okay,
this is a good play from Suits. They can get it, but I think he just spoiled his own play there. Yeah. Gardic is fine.
Gotta make sure of it. Okay. Not sure he needed it, but take no chances. Pop the Overgrowth. Walk away. tower is still going to sort of take a nice bit of damage here, but in the middle lane, you see Analog and Widge pushing for a tier 1, down bot. Vitaly was sort of pushing in a little bit as well, wasn't able to finish it off because the Ursa moved over, but you are still applying quite a bit of pressure, and now up in the top lane, Analog actually TP'd in. That's the global. Okay. Kind of felt like Fúria Jovem were already backing away, but yeah, Analog maybe didn't have full knowledge of that. But now this gets a little bit more complicated. You have now used the global silence. There's still 3 heroes hanging out in the area, and they're bringing the Mirana over, which could hit the arrow. That might sort of change things, but right now, if you're Hokori, I don't think you want to push that far forward. They're just looking to sort of hold this tower for as long as they can. It's insanely low, but living armor is coming back up, so I mean, they're really just going to make their opponents work for this one.
Yeah, it's a little bit strange. That was definitely a really bad global, because now they're setting up for another dive on Nagardic, and with the Doom available, they'll definitely Doom him just to take him out. I think this tower will finally go down, but still, it took much longer than ideally it should have. You do have the Doom working towards that Blink Dagger now, went for the Midas first, so they're still trying to find this play up here, but you can't help but feel like this is exactly what Hokori want. The Medusa's 2,000 hours ahead of anyone else in the entire game, finished up that Sanjin Yasha, and might actually make the rotation towards bottom to now take out some of these towers, especially knowing the Glyph isn't available for the Radiant.
Yeah, this is a pretty low-risk play for RDO, and at this point, he does now have a couple points up in the mana shield as well. So even if someone does TP in, he's here, he's got his shield, he's got Vitaly to back him up, so there's really not a lot of risk. He'll take the tower, and Hokori just really feel like they're getting just about everything that they want for the Medusa. The other core positions, maybe that's a bit of a toss-up. Analog here is kind of on the lower end among those core heroes, but still building his way up. Aghanim Scepter being worked on. Meanwhile, for Vitaly, actually just kind of skipping over the Dom Helm entirely. There's no sort of HOD carrier on the other side, so it becomes maybe a little bit less necessary there. So Vitaly just working on the hood, and then actually the halberd after that up against the Ursa. That's just going to be kind of brutal if he can get off that disarm in the middle of a fight.
Yeah, you don't want to give this Doom very easy targets with the Devour, especially the level 15 talent. You really don't need to take that talent unless you are playing versus the Beastmaster or the Lycan. And then this Doom feels really nice versus both of those heroes, but this is the aggression. If they really want to, they will bring RDO over, and that looks like that's what they will do to try and put pressure on this mid tower. Unfortunately, killing bottom, they did give Glyph already over to the opponent, but
whoa, that is just a straight up ravage. Look at the arrow in from Widge. That almost felt casual at the start, but they had planned that one out spectacularly. They get the first kill onto Mandy, and well, the question now is what else can they do? Because the rest of Fúria Jovem are here. They are presumably looking for a fight, but I'm not really sure if they want to go into this. Even with the Ravage down, this is going to be a bit complicated for them, but they've got the lasso, they've got the Doom. Maybe they can make something happen, and there's it is. In onto the wrong target, unfortunately, as Vitaly, you just can't lasso him. It's just not going to work. They hit him with the Doom as well. He's just going to walk that off. Meanwhile, Gardet comes in with the Overgrowth Duster, dropped low and finished off, and that, well, case in point, if you needed really the perfect example of why you probably shouldn't jump onto the Tide Hunter first, there it is. Zeus tries to go in, and once that lasso sort of breaks up, there's really not much else for them to work with, and now Zeus actually has to just try and get away. Vitaly's kind of running him down, pushing him away from the tower so that RDO and Analog can continue to push in. They're going to get that tier 1. And yeah, Batrider going to make the decision to back off at this point, probably for the best.
Yeah, there's not much they can do at this point. You're seeing the Ursa going to try and finish up that Battle Fury, and something I didn't really have a chance to mention before, but I don't know if this is the right path that Mandy has decided to take this Ursa, because of course you will be able to keep pace with that Medusa a little bit more, but you just are off to such a bad start now. You're going to have your Battle Fury after this Ancient Camp, but what does that allow you to do? It's never the Battle Fury. It's always the next 2 items after that. Is it going to be Yasha BKB? Is it going to be Diffusal Basher? It just feels like it's messing up his order of operations a little bit too much, where it's so simple for RDO to go for this Butterfly after the Sanjin Yasha. And it's not like you're going to go for an MKB immediately on this Ursa. It's just not going to feel comfortable for you, because you need the BKB to play versus the Silencer and the Tide Hunter. I just don't know if I like this item decision. I feel like he's going to run out of time in this game.
And part of the reason why we were maybe talking about the Ursa optimistically was the idea of maybe you can sort of be ready to fight before the Medusa can, right? You can get in there, you can keep the stacks on her and make something happen, but now, with that Battle Fury pickup, it feels like you have resigned yourself to trying to outfarm a Medusa, and that's already sort of a bad deal for whoever's attempting to do it. Now you're trying to make it happen when you're already over 3,000 net worth behind that Medusa. So, I don't know. The Battle Fury doesn't seem fantastic right now, but well, they're looking for kills elsewhere. Analog, though, is able to pop the ult and TP himself away, so on the one hand, you don't find the kill, but that is global down for pretty much nothing. I mean, Firefly was used, but the silence comes through before the lasso can be deployed, so the resources maybe being taken away. Now Fúria Jovem can try to push further forward, make use of the lasso and the Doom onto some more vulnerable targets, perhaps, but I don't really see that sense of urgency for them right now. They're just kind of farming up in that north side jungle instead. Meanwhile, Mandy is getting sort of scouted out here in his own jungle. He's got to be very careful. I just don't think Hokori have the damage right now, but they are keeping eyes on him.
And the grip, the Doom.
There it is. Analog does get taken down after all. That ward, as you point out, paying for itself there. Big kill onto Analog. That's what they kind of need. They need more of that for Fúria Jovem. Find those pickoffs and really maintain control, I think, in this north side jungle. It's nice that they were in there initially. Now they need to be able to maintain that control even after the kill. So this vision going to go a long way towards helping that out. And well, you see Duster actually still kind of hanging out here. So if he can maybe take some of these sentries away, just make that north side jungle a little bit more accessible for his teammates, as we unfortunately have another pause here. Again, from that Fúria Jovem side. So as we mentioned before, this is being played on the Peruvian server, so we may have some sort of intermittent sort of lag issues for the players on that Fúria Jovem side, but last pause didn't take too long. Nobody's DC'd here, so don't really anticipate this one being all that long of a pause either.
Yeah, we can only hope, but right now they do need to just take as much real estate away from the Hokori side, especially with the item build that Analog has decided to go for here. This is a little bit strange, I think, in the scheme of things. We're not seeing the quad null treads. We're not seeing the Witchblade looked up just yet. And he gives away that kill after already committing the global in a very selfish way. So you're going to see now a lot of that team fight be reliant on Vitaly and whether or not he's going to be able to find a lot of these big ravages, something that he is very good at doing. But I wonder now where we're going to see the Hokori side refocus here, especially because RDO isn't going for that crit stick next. Instead, he's valuing getting that Manta style, which is another interesting avenue for him to go down. Don't know if I entirely agree with it, but I'll have to see if he decides to go for it, if he wants something else, because with that crit stick, you can just go to Roche. And that's something that with the Ursa in the game, going for this Battle Fury, we haven't seen Roche really been an objective just yet, and something that Fúria Jovem definitely want to look at as soon as they can.
Well, Vitaly blinks himself forward, gets eyes on Duster. The Nightmare's going to lock him down momentarily, but now RDO, he's pushing his way forward as well. Never mind. Okay. The greed wins out. RDO wants the last hits instead. So, no chance for that fight, but yeah, going back to what you were saying, ET, I don't know. This Manta build is a bit of an interesting one. I'm not sure he realizes maybe just how far ahead he is compared to the Ursa, because you're sitting 3k up on your opponents. Yeah, maybe now's the time. Go for that sort of direct damage and try to press that advantage as much as possible. But not that the Butterfly Manta doesn't give him sort of more damage and utility as well, but it's not quite as hard-hitting as something like the Crit Stick Daedalus build. But it could still work out. I mean, the Medusa is so far ahead right now for a reason. It's just, I'm a little bit wary. We were sort of bagging on this Battle Fury build a little bit, but if Mandy actually gets enough time, you're still probably not out-farming the Medusa, but you could at least get yourself into a position where you are sort of comparable in strength.
And it's not necessarily the item, it's just the time that it takes to get your following items. If Manny's able to hit creeps, it is a calculated risk that can definitely pay off. The problem is, if this BKB lands a little bit too late, what are you going to have to give in tow? And will your teammates be able to make up for that weakness in you? Because if he had Diffusal Blade, Blink Dagger, he would have that at the same time as Suits would have BKB Boots of Travel on Batrider. So that play isn't going to be available to them, and I don't think they're going to show up to this Roche fight because of that kind of decision making. It's more like a knock-on effect when you decide to go for items like these.
Yeah, it just, to a certain extent, can sort of mess with the timing, as you were saying. So Hokori, they realistically will probably just get this Roche for free. The scan comes through, so Furia Jovem now know for certain that it's happening, but who can really get into position to stop it? You do have Heiko sort of close, but you'd be maybe blinking in, looking for the War Stomp onto a couple, and then even if you do hit that, you need someone to sort of dish out that follow-up damage. So they don't really have the resources that they would need, which means RDO takes down Roshan, gets the Aegis into his hands with very little resistance, and now he is on a collision course with Sooth. Sooth says no, no thank you. Drops the flame break, walks away, but he may not have a choice. Widge is coming in. Can he cancel the TP? Yes, he can. Dual Scepter comes in, and now the bat. He's got a BKB, but I don't know if he's going to be fast enough, and he actually doesn't get the chance. The BKB won't come through. Vitaly's going to just let fly with the Ravage. And in that instance, probably for the best that Seuss didn't go in for that BKB. I don't think it would have been enough to save him anyway. And at least this way, you bait out the Ravage, but that's still your Batrider being taken down, and you've got an Aegis-wielding RDO Medusa who's now looking to take some towers as he's pushing down top.
No.
TP in, Global comes out, they've locked down Mandy. And they keep him trapped up in the tree line. They're doing a pretty decent job of it, but Mandy able to jump away. Widge, caught in the line of fire there. He will be taken down, but this Ursa really just doesn't have anywhere to go. He's just going to fight as best as he can, and he very nearly takes down Vitaly. Quite a couple of charges, or stacks rather, with the Fury swipes. Just didn't quite have enough to finish it off, but if you're looking for silver linings, I suppose, Furia Jovem alleviate that pressure onto their tier 2, but it comes at the cost of the Ursa, who at this point, you really can't afford to be losing too much farming time on him. That Battle Fury, as you mentioned, can still pay off for him, but it's going to be about that sort of efficiency. How fast can he get to the items that follow it up? And, I mean, high-level analysis here, ET, but you can't farm when you're dead. At least not on the Ursa.
No, unfortunately not. But at the same time, it feels like he has to play in this sect of the map. They were doing a pretty nice job there, having the Doom cut the mid creep wave while they were losing that real estate top, and the Medusa wasn't able to eat into that tier 2 tower just yet, but at the same time, you are losing quite a few objectives here and there, and while this chip is fantastic, it's chip versus a Treant Protector, so these towers are just going to get healed up very slowly but surely, and while they are waiting out this Aegis timer, this is actually still a really fresh Aegis on RDO. He's going to be able to get a lot of these objectives rolling for his team. And
oh boy, King RD, you don't want to be here. Vitaly hits him up with the Gush into the Anchor Smash, but Medusa doesn't really care too much about this engagement, so it's really just going to be Vitaly alone to try and make it happen. He does have the Whip, though, and oh, okay. Whip loses it to Blink. King RD able to get himself back to the fountain, but that means there's no defense of this tower. That leaves RDO just free to really take it down. Tier 2 tower finished off, so, well, you know, if the Medusa has a little bit more damage with this build, maybe that goes a little bit faster, but you don't need to be faster when you have that much time on your side. Just takes it down casually, rotates now into the south side jungle. Vitaly's going to take that outpost as well, so this is one thing, if you're Furia Jovem, you can't really afford to allow to happen. Losing control of the map is going to become almost a death sentence for them. They really need to try and maintain their eyes and control, maybe not across the entirety of the map, who knows whether that's going to be viable or not, but at least on their own side.
Yeah, and again, King RD, he's just trying to be obnoxious. He's trying to slow down this Medusa as much as possible, but that's where this Treant Protector last pick is just feeling so obnoxious for them to deal with. This split push would be impactful, but it just isn't. And they're setting up in good positions with the wards, with the vision that Duster is able to get down. They know exactly the entrances to the enemy's jungle right now. Hokori have to really give away their position every single time they leave their base, but really they don't care that Furia Jovem know where they're playing. This Aegis is going to time out in a minute, so maybe that will be a little bit of an opening, but RDO decided to switch up his build, is now going for the full Scotty, and that is where this game becomes incredibly difficult, because if you aren't incredibly fast with killing everyone but the Medusa, then you are stuck in these engagements. You are stuck to sit there, get slowed by the Medusa pretty much till death. And that's where this BKB on Mandy isn't going to help him at all when it comes to this matchup. And if they can cut this bottom wave, they're just going to not let Furia Jovem weave their base anymore. I don't think they're actually going to give up any more space. I think this is critical mass, more or less, even though the gold lead is actually in Furia Jovem's favor, but that's really just the Doom effect.
And now for Mandy, you're talking about the BKB, he has to contend with the disarm here from the Heaven's Halberd, so that timing becomes even more sort of important for him. If you pop it early to try and avoid the disarm, that sort of makes life easier for Hokori in terms of holding their spells. If you pop it after the disarm, then it doesn't really do you quite as much good. So, gotta try to avoid Vitaly as best as he can, which is probably probably good advice against a Tidehunter just in general in this scenario, but now especially has to try and maintain that separation as he will TP away. Good news, though, for Furia Jovem is that they've waited out that Aegis timer. As you said, that could be maybe an opening now that RDO doesn't have that second life up, but 2 lives or 1, this is a tough sort of nut to crack in terms of the Medusa herself. You are not going to be able to easily just break through any fight that the Medusa is taking part in.
And the real question now for the Ursa becomes, can he get this MKB before the second Roche respawns? If he cannot get this MKB before second Roche, then they will not defend second Roche. Or if they will, they'll most likely try and fail unless an absolute crazy team fight happens. But that's where the timer is actually being put on Furia Jovem right now. They've got good wards, they've got good positioning, but Hokori refused to give them the play that they're waiting for so desperately. If RDO wants, could just hit up the high ground right now, force the entire enemy team back into the base. In fact, they're going to Moonlight Shadow, and they're going to scare everyone off of this mid tower, so it's just more space, more time. This mid lane is going to be the first engagement in quite a while, though, it looks like.
It looks like Duster is just going to kind of be the sacrificial lamb here. Yule Scepter from Widge sets it up, Arrow will connect, and that's about as easy a kill as you're going to be able to find, but at the end of the day, it is really just the Bane. Everyone else is able to sort of clear out there successfully, so Duster sort of living that sort of position 5 life, but now Vitaly's made his way bot. I don't really think this is a situation, this is not a situation Mandy wants to fight, and he's TPing himself out, as you said before. He's got to focus on these item timings more than really anything else. The BKB is now up, but the MKB has only just been started, and he's got a pretty substantial way to go, with Roshan potentially only a minute away.
And that's the major problem right now. In such a low kill game, the things that could be buying you time right now is your Doom and your Suits. Your Suits has to get involved somehow. He's 0-3-1.
I like this, though. Okay.
He's just dead. Yeah. You need space. You need time from your allies here, and the Doom and the Batrider have just been unable to make any plays. And okay, Widge is getting run down a little bit here, but okay, this is not farming.
Mandy, what are you going to do here? He's got a BKB, but the damage output's not great, and there's Gardic jumping in, hitting him up with that Overgrowth. Nice play from Heiko, though, getting onto the backline, hitting him up with the Infernal Blade, but not actually going for the Doom, realizing against the Medusa, it really would not net them the kill that they need, so he will hold it for now. The problem with that is that the rest of his team are just on the retreat. King RD's already been taken down. Duster is going to try to TP out, but the Yule Scepter will cancel it, and once he comes back down, he is pretty much guaranteed to die. RDO picks it up, double kill for the Medusa. Roshan only about 15 seconds away, so if Hokori scouted out, they could go for it, but for now, although they're continuing to push out the middle lane, they could honestly just try for the high ground right now, but Furia Jovem are going to start getting heroes back in about 10 to 20 seconds, but they're going to go for it. Okay. Tier 3 tower taking a beating here, already losing nearly 1,000 HP, and don't see any immediate response, but okay, Heiko jumps in, but that's going to be the global deployed. BKB out from the Doom, though, and now Zeus goes in as well. His own BKB activated. Looking for the lasso. He caught out the Medusa. Can they actually bring that Medusa down, though? That is going to be the question, and between the lasso and I believe the Doom applied as well, they do get that kill. They'll take down Gardic as well. Widge is going to be able to TP out with a sliver of HP, so well, maybe Hokori should have backed off for Roche after all, because now Furia Jovem are the ones who get the kill. They scout out that Roche is up, and I mean, they do have an Ursa. The item build has been a little bit out of order from what we normally expect, but Ursa is still Ursa. He is going to go to work on that Roshan.
Yeah, and all the momentum is now going to shift over. That was the Ags reveal as well on the Doom, so no split shot, no modifiers. There was nothing that you could really do to get out at that stage of the game. The Shard goes over to the Ursa, the Aegis on the Ursa, and a lot of time that you really can't afford your enemies. And with the way that the Silencer has been built up, you aren't seeing him really become that second core just yet. He's even just going for a refresher, hoping that he can have double global to play around his win condition, that being the Medusa. But that is a hole that Furia Jovem can definitely poke and prod open. All of their cores are much more independent in their actions than anyone on Hokori, where they are really all in on this Medusa. And if they can't protect her, that is going to happen. And so much on the map is now collapsing. You see how scared they have to play whenever she's off the map.
And this feels a little bit like what we saw earlier today for No Ping. With Angel on the Luna, it was an incredible amount of sort of damage potential out from Angel's hero, but the rest of that core trio didn't quite live up to those expectations. I think in that one it was Dark Mago Leshrac that we were looking at, and really just didn't get the chance to apply that damage. Not all of that was his fault, because the Lesh was just kind of getting blown up by physical damage on the other side, and the thing is, that may very well be what happens to Analog here. He's not building for much direct damage, and he's also not really building himself into a very durable state either. So if he can stay on the back line, if he can throw out the global, if he can get two of them at that, that's really going to be potentially game-changing, but that's a lot of ifs, right? He has to find the farm. He has to stay safe. He can't really do a lot of direct damage in most of these engagements. It's gonna really fall on RDO's shoulders.
And that does come back to Furia Jovem, or rather not Furia Jovem, but Hokori feeling like they were a little bit further ahead than they actually were, because they didn't have Ravage, they didn't have Stone Gaze, they had the global, of course, but all of the cores on the Furia Jovem side have BKB, so they're able to purge everything off. There just wasn't a little bit of patience coming in from Analog. If he's a little bit more patient on that ultimate, maybe he's okay. But you are hitting the high ground tower when you're missing 3 out of your 5 ultimates. It's just crazy. But they felt like nothing bad could happen to this Medusa, and RDO actually goes back for the Lincoln Sphere. So an interesting direction to now take this Medusa, but still, I am a little bit concerned now going forward. If she gets doomed again, it is going to be a dead Medusa, and we might even see, as soon as this Lincoln's gets scouted out, Heiko might try to get a different creep, something that's going to be able to pop that Lincoln's, but top, poor Duster. That is 3 TPs for Duster, though. Okay.
Okay, yeah, let's just make it a whole party. Everyone is here. All 5 of Hokori make their way over to get that one. Analog, well, always worth it when we see the Silencer, just to keep an eye on that intelligence stat. Plus 14 for him right now, but he's not exactly going to be able to steal enough in to turn himself into that sort of significant damage dealer right now. But you take down Duster, it's worth a little bit more than it normally would be with the int sort of switching hands, but if you're Hokori, well, what else can you do here? On the other side, we see some big items coming into play. MKB finished off by the Ursa, so he didn't get it before that second Roche, but that's kind of okay because the second Roche went into his hands, so he's all right with that one. Meanwhile, the Shadow Demon with the Aghanim Scepter pickup, so you've got more damage on your Ursa. You got a Blink Dagger on the Batrider a few moments ago. You have 3 Purge charges for King RD to work with. This is getting dangerous for Hokori, and it's not exactly like they can just flip the switch and say, okay, let's start winning team fights again. You really have kind of lost that degree of control.
Yeah, and if we do see that triple purge drop down on really anyone at this stage of the game, nobody on Hokori's side wants to get hit up by that. Fortunately, the big answer to the Shadow Demon still is that global. King RD doesn't have a way to dispel it on himself, so that global could definitely throw a wrench into the works. But the way that they've engaged thus far has been very clean coming out from Furia Jovem. The few team fights that they have decided to take, they've been able to really find their target and then play across the map. And we've seen a complete role reversal. Now the team with Aegis is S5, and Hokori are trying to split out these side lanes as best as they can. And Widge, well, he's looking for a bunch of couriers here.
Did he get any of them, actually? He's going to leap forward, but didn't get it. The invulnerability comes through. Both of those couriers able to fly away, and that isn't really going to cost Widge much personally, but the missed opportunity there, maybe keep 1 or 2 of those items out of the hands of their opponents for another couple of minutes, but it at least buys Hokori the time to regroup. Widge TP's back. Analog still hanging out in that top lane. going to try to push this all the way up to the tower at least, so maybe they can get some chip damage. But over mid, well, Mandy is going to get jumped in on, but do they really have the means to take him down twice? There's going to be Heiko jumping in. They've got the actual lockdown onto the Tide. The Doom and the Fiend's Grip were both deployed, but now that Global Silence is going to come into play. Duster will be taken down. They lose Heiko. Mandy, he's trying to fight his way through this, and he's actually doing a pretty damn good job. Gardic very low on HP, and now the lasso in onto the Medusa. They have locked down RDO, but Vitaly buys back, jumps in, gets the Ravage down. That's going to be enough to finish off that Ursa. So they got through both of his lives there, but what else can they get? They might want to try and find someone like King RD, but King RD is actually making the jump in onto the Silencer. Analog's going to fall. And King RD, I mean, he absolutely has to die for this, but... Okay, King RD just middle fingers all around as he TPs himself home. He gets the kill and gets away with it. That. Wow. They just didn't quite have the damage and they didn't have any way to cancel it out.
And that is actually a massive blow to the Hokori economy. That was the Doom landing onto the Tidehunter. There was nothing he could do after it gone on. He was actually waiting to die there so he could buy back into that fight. And of course, you do end up getting the Ursa, but you have to think about the importance of this team fight. What does this actually mean for Fúria Jovem? Well, their Ursa gets to naturally respawn. There's no threat of their tier 3 towers. They took the fight on the enemy side of the map. So really, it's just 2 buybacks that now there aren't going to be available to them. So we might see that Doom now placed and singled out onto the Medusa. This game is only getting scarier as the time goes on. There are more items now that this Ursa is able to finish. Doom as well has the refresher now, so he can actually doom 2 targets if he wants to, as well as building up towards that Hex now. This is just becoming late game Doom. I've seen this many, many times before, and it is not something to be trifled with.
Yeah, Heiko, he does have to be maybe a little bit careful. He used his own buyback in that fight, didn't quite realize that at the time, but if he gets picked off again, it could be a problem, which normally you wouldn't really think is too big of a deal because he's relatively tanky, but Vitaly is kind of getting in onto him, and they're going to try and make this play happen. They can't get Heiko, so instead, they will turn their attention onto Duster, a far easier kill for them to take, and now we've just got illusions everywhere. So many illusions being thrown out here, but RDO is going to be able to clear through most of them, and, well, Duster once again called upon to sacrifice himself. This really is sort of that playstyle that he goes for as Widge. Kind of starting off this fight almost unintentionally, but there's going to be the global coming in, but the BKB from the Doom had already been deployed. He was able to refresh up that Doom, so he does have the ult to work with. The question is, can he find his target? Right now, it's looking like no, mostly because the rest of Fúria Jovem are desperately trying to make their retreat back into their own base. Suits, he might actually make it out, but now they turn. They're going in. They've got the Doom down as well as that Fiend's Grip. One of them gets canceled by the Ravage, but you can't cancel the Doom, and now RDO is just trapped in the middle, taken down. And Hokori have to run. Vitaly is actually not getting out of here. He's pretty tanky, but Mandy is eventually going to be able to finish him off, or you would assume so, but no, Vitaly. That's the second time now. Someone's been basically dead to rights, but the TP comes through. No bash, no lockdown. So Vitaly will get himself away. That's actually pretty big there. He may not have the Ravage up again for another 2 minutes, but his presence on the front line is going to be incredibly important in terms of dissuading Fúria Jovem from now trying to push for any objectives.
Yeah, and now pushing into the mid lane, you already bought out on the Medusa. Of course, your push is not fantastic. You're going to need every single member of Fúria Jovem to sync up. Otherwise, this building damage isn't going to be that impactful. And that is the unfortunate aspect of Fúria Jovem's lineup. You aren't able to blitz down these towers as maybe a troll or a TV would have been able to, but you're able to kite out this Medusa, and if this Doom ever lands on her, she is dead to rights. There is nothing you can do about it. They just sit on top of her with the BKBs, and yeah, Sooths. What a crazy blink, but
going fishing,
he's
trying
broken.
For it. Got pretty close to Analog. Silencer was able to blink out just in time, but now this Silencer doesn't have a whole lot to do. You see him throwing out the curse there, but he doesn't have either of his ults. Refresher Orb is not back up for 75 seconds. The actual ult itself gone for 15, and he is at least going to have one around the time when that Medusa respawns, but by the time she's back in, look at Mandy go. He's just hacking away at that tower over and over again, and now they get the lasso. They're going to pull Gardic out of the base. Quick and easy kill for them. Gardic, though, does have a buyback, so he could rejoin his teammates if there's a fight to be had, but at this point, Fúria Jovem, they're not going to get that greedy. The Medusa's coming back in. We got our kill. We got our tower. Let's just really get out of here with the lead.
Yeah, they don't want to throw away anything, and they aren't throwing away anything. They are just continually getting these decent trades for them, and now everything is going to focus around this Roche respawning in a minute. Gardic even respawns. He doesn't know that Roche could not be available to them, but just going to get it off the table in the first place. But looking at the buyback status, it is a sea of red right now. This Roche is going to be so important. If you can get it onto the Medusa, then it'll break the game basically for Furia Jovem. They'll have to commit way too much, and then the team fight will just be about playing around the Medusa's second life. They can't afford to give this Roche over to her. Otherwise, Furia Jovem is going to lose everything they've built up over the past 25 minutes.
Yeah. It's a kind of a rough catch-22 kind of situation. You need to now contest Roshan because you don't want to go up against a 2-life Medusa with your buyback so limited, but if you contest Roshan, you're doing so with most of your buybacks being limited. So you have to contest and you have to win, otherwise things can get pretty rough for them, and they know the gravity of the situation. They are pushing their way forward. Analog, though, is able to sort of ambush them a little bit with that damage. That's going to break up the initial attempt. Mandy, I mean, he's still going here, but yeah, that's a problem. Vitali blinks in. There's going to be the Ravage thrown down. Can they kill the Ursa off in time? Global Silence comes through. Mandy's dead. He's the only one right now with buyback, and he's not using it yet, but if he doesn't, Furia Joe can really just have nothing in this fight, although at this point, even if he did buy back, I don't think he'd join his teammates in time to make a difference. 3 heroes go down. Aiko's going to use the last few seconds of his BKB to facilitate the TP home. And this is exactly what you said they could not afford to do, ET. RDO's going to waltz into the Roche pit, and they're going to be able to get the Aegis into his hands.
Yeah, and I understand why they feel like they need to make this crazy jump. You need this eye spot if you ever want to fight in this area. If you don't take control of the high ground vision, you're just going to lose the fight. The problem being, you throw away your Ursa, you disconnect yourself from your Doom, you're unable to get there in time with either of your initiators, and now this is nightmare fuel, as you have a Refresher Shard now on the Tidehunter, you've got effectively 3 Lincoln Spheres, 2 lives on the Medusa, and you can't afford to waste any of your spells. The only reason they've been able to win any of these team fights is because they have been so picture perfect when it comes to their spell usage, but now they have this incredible safety cushion coming out from Hokori. I feel like this is going to be an incredible base defense if they can manage it, but this is going to be incredibly difficult.
And that brings us back to the point we were sort of making before, talking about that potential contest around the Roche pit. Buybacks for Furia Jovem aren't good. There's one up on the Ursa, there's one on the Bad Rider. Everyone else is either short on gold or short on time. So Hokori obviously maybe don't know that for certain down to the sort of timers, but they've got to at least be operating with the suspicion right now that their opponent's resources are running a little bit thin. Question is, how do you approach this fight? It seems pretty straightforward. We've got 2 lives on the Medusa. We've got 2 to 3 Ravages and Lincoln Spheres on Vitali, but it's really not going to be as simple as just throwing yourself face first at the enemy and hoping for the best. They do still need that sort of element of, well, I mean, a strategic advantage for themselves. So they're not just going to take the first fight that they see, although at this point, the fight is actually coming to them rather than the other way around. The 4 or 5 man smoke is going to get Furia Jovem forward, but where is the opening right now? They're looking for it as RDO. Well, he got hit up initially there by the Soul Catcher, but he's able to walk off most of that damage, and now Heiko all of a sudden kind of stuck in the middle. He's going to pop the BKB, though, looking to turn around, but RDO's pushing in with the damage. That Scotty is going to work. The Global Silence will now be used, but Mandy was in there for the damage beforehand, so Analog will fall. He immediately buys back, though, and now Gardic is going to come in with the Overgrowth, but Mandy actually just pops the ult. He'll walk away from that, but he's still sort of trapped up in the middle of this fight, but look at the damage coming out. They're going to take down Gardic. Vitali, though, does come in with the Ravage into a second Global, into the second Ravage, and I think now is just too much for Furia Jovem to handle. They're going to lose 3, trying to get out with anyone that they have left. Mandy, though, already tried to TP out, so that's actually on cooldown, and if Corey realized that, they could go looking for him, but right now I think they're just content to leave him stranded in that lane while the rest of Hokori's lineup just pushes down a lane.
And he needs to start sneaking over right now because he is not in this fight. He's not going to be there for the base defense, and he's going to have to buy back on the Doom pretty soon here as well. But this is a terrible situation. Mandy's making no moves.
Yeah, he's got to go. At this point, you realize there's nobody here. There's nobody who's going to stop you. You've just got to make a break for it at this stage, and that does put you directly in that line of fire as you're going to be sort of running into the backside of Hokori, but if you don't, well, your teammate isn't really going to be able to hold without you, as we can see Tier 3 tower taking a beating, but at this point, Hokori...
Oh, they noticed the Ursa.
Yeah, they're backing up. They're going to regroup outside of the base, trying to get onto the Ursa. Can they bring him down? Dual Scepter keeping him locked in place, but Mandy is still trying to dish out that damage. He's doing a pretty decent job of it. RDO is not in a great position right now, but even if they bring him down once, he's got the Aegis, so he's coming right back up. Mandy trying his best, but at this point he's running out of gas and he will go down. RDO doesn't even lose the Aegis, and well, I was going to say that might be it, but there is a buyback. There it is. Mandy's going to buy back, looking to rejoin the fight. His teammates, though, already dropping. Duster will be finished off. But honestly, they could do it. Oh my god, they could do it without him as Mandy looking him jump in. Just burns through that Aegis. That's what they needed the first time around. Didn't get it in that first attempt, but now they've got RDO. They burned through one of his lives. They're trying to get through the multitude of defensive items. That lasso is actually going to be reflected, and now the Global Silence will come through. That's going to force Sooth's back. Meanwhile, in the tree line, the Doom is completely isolated from his teammates. He's going to be finished off as well. And Furia Jovem really look like they're just sort of running out of resources here. There's a buyback on the Bane, but there's no buyback on the Doom as the arrow flipping Mandy way on the back line, but they're more concerned with getting the racks than they are diving after that tower, or diving after that kill, rather. Probably the smarter decision, but now Mandy, he's going to try to force the issue, pushing his way forward. Activating the ult now, trying to turn around, but the disarm is going to be there. The Yule Scepter throws him up in the air as well, and once he lands guarded, hits him up with the Overgrowth. They are desperately trying to fight their way through this, but they just can't do it. Mandy will die for the second time, and that may very well be the end of it. Duster's going to get finished off as Vitali will pick up the double. And, well, I don't know. They're going to get one lane of racks. Honestly, at this point, they could probably just go for the tier 4s, and yeah, that's what they're going to do. They know those buyback statuses are pretty much all down.
Yeah, and there's actually nothing they can do about this. They're going to try and be obnoxious. Kennedy's done a fantastic job of being a real problem that Ardo needs to deal with, but unfortunately, you're not bringing him into the fountain. Sooth's tried his best, but I think that should just spell the end of the game here. A quiet end to a very quiet Dota game, but look, even Vitali, they're trying to kill him, and they might even get him. Yeah, he does so much damage with the SD, but
okay, that's going to be
can
one
they really
more.
hold for 40?
No, almost certainly not. Tier 4 falls, Ancient exposed. RDO just going to play some objective gaming here, and this is really not something the Batrider can try. Gotta give Sue some credit, though. He's still making an attempt at it, but there's only so much he's going to be able to do. They even come in with the disruption, so really they are going to fight to the bitter end, but the end does eventually come. Hokori take the win. Maybe taking a little bit longer than we would have initially thought, with Furia Jovem putting up a slightly stronger defense, but in the end, the Medusa, it's too much. They just can't break their way through it.
Yeah, and it's still very unfortunate. It's just one decision to blink onto one high ground to get one little leg up on your vision. Even King RD blinked up to that high ground and was actually cliffing himself. He pulled an RTZ, and then the game ends because of it. You take one bad fight on one bad decision, and Hokori have all the time in the world. It was incredibly hard fought. It was incredibly difficult for so long, and I wonder what win probability has to say. Yeah, win probability is a chasm. It really thought that Hokori had thrown their advantage to at least a 50-50, but at the same time, Hokori really should have kept that advantage pretty much the entire time. It's what their lineup was really geared to do, but the fantastic play from Furia Jovem almost caught it back, but the Roche is what broke the base. It's plain and simple. Ran out of spells, ran out of buybacks, and just some fantastic ravages coming out from Vitali specifically. When he wasn't doomed, he was finding his man. He was always getting onto his targets, and the double ravage to really spell the end of that game, just fantastic from him.
Yeah. At a certain point, we were saying maybe Analog wasn't always on point, nitpicking at some of that in a lot of those situations, but at the end of the day, if you can send a Medusa in, and you can back it up with 2 Global Silences and 2 Ravages, it's hard not to find success with that kind of just overwhelming firepower. So Hokori were able to make it happen. Not as clean as they probably would have liked, but they do get that victory, and it is their first of the group stage. So they are on the board here, a 1-0 lead, but the series is not over just yet. We are going to be moving over to Game 2, and for Furia Jovem and their fans, this one is going to be played on the Brazilian server. We did point that out a little bit earlier. Game 1 played on the Peruvian server, Game 2 on Brazil. So is that going to be enough? Who can say, but at least Furia Jovem might be a little bit more comfortable in terms of ping, latency, lag, things of that nature. So we'll see if that's enough of a catalyst for them to try and kind of rally the troops here. Down 0-1 in the series, but a chance to draw that 1-1 and salvage a point. So we are going to be moving into that final game of the day in just a little bit, so we'll step aside just for a few moments, and we'll be back for Game 2 of the series in just a little bit.